Today we are going to have a very fun track or very fun video at the same time. We are going to make a melodic house track, or you can even call it actually progressive house or progressive deep melodic house. It's like really in between. Some people even call it actually Euro house as well. But anyway, we are going to make a melodic house track similar to ones that you will find in Anjunadeep, especially from band Böhmer. And I'm going to use a reference track from him. We are going to basically use the track that is called Breathing from band Böhmer. I think it's a very cool track, and the main reason that I really want to pick that track because it utilizes triplets a lot, and I feel like it's something that many people avoids or scared to use, so it will be very interesting for those people as well. But even though we are going to use the reference track, I'm going to start from scratch. We are going to do the drums, kicks, basses, and then we are going to take a look at the pads and the lead sounds and the hi-hats, shakers, hats, and so on. So we are going to do it from start to end, and I will try to explain as much as I can. I cannot really know exactly how band Böhmer thought when he made the track, but I can just try to give my own comments. But enough with the talk, let's sit down, start Ableton, and make some cool melodic house tracks. As usual, the first thing that we are going to do is basically creating our low end so that we can have a groove going on. So we need to pick some type of a kick. And for this track, I'm going to pick something a bit fat, like a full of sub, but short, because we would like to really put the bass, the sub bass in front of the track. So we don't like the kick to take too much space. So if I think I call it Anjuna kick. By the way, I'm creating a sample pack as well, so I'm going to share my samples later on. Most of them are just me creating artist-based samples. Here we go. This is the kick. So like I mentioned, it's like a really cool thumb, really short one. You know already me, I also really love this type of kicks. A short thumb, so it cuts through the mix, and then a nice sub so that you can actually maybe make it shorter or longer depending on your taste. But this one is like kind of a perfect length, I will say, and if I play it, it sounds like this. So it's kind of quite heavy. You can definitely hear the thumb. And if I turn this on, you see that it's a sub heavy as well. I'll boost a little bit here. Again, depending on how we feel with the sub and so on, we can come back and do more stuff. So what I'm going to do now, just put the pigments, and we are going to build a simple low end from this. And to make it really simple for us, what I'm going to do, take something like this, and then I can maybe activate the second one. Let's pick from the analog so that we have this kind of a nice variation going on. The important thing over here though, here is a drift, so how much it drifts from the tune. So I try to keep it low for the sub basses because we want to set sub bass as smooth and as stable as possible, because the variation there is not really that important, but if you have too much variation, it will really make it hard to properly master your track simply because of those variations and volumes and so on. So I'm going to pick this one. What I'm going to do, maybe tune this down, let's say 12 dB, so that we have an octave below, and keep it like this. And then I'm going to go here and pick something like this. The reason being Matrix 12 is actually, if you tend to use resonance in pigments in Matrix 12 filter, it doesn't cut too much from the sub. Other filters actually cuts a little bit from the sub to emphasize on the resonance, so that's the main reason. So let's take this guy. So what I'm going to do, keep this long and give a small envelope here, so we will have a sound like this. Let me put it, and if I click just simple MIDI, it sounds like this. Let's boost it a bit. Really nice clean bass sound. But what I'm going to do, actually draw a simple sub bass line exactly the same as the reference track. In the original track is actually I think 8-bar loop, so let's start with the 4-bar here. Let me create this so we can capitalize afterwards. Let's unfold this. We are going to just start with the E minor, and we're going to pick with the E1, so it will sound quite bassy. If I play here, you will hear it. And what I'm going to do, let's start with a long E like this, and then let's go to the third. In the E minor scale, we will have 1, 2, 3. I'm jumping 1 here and half, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the notes that we are going to utilize. The only thing is, I'm not really thinking jumping too much between different notes, because then sub bass becomes not sub anymore, if that makes sense. So probably if I go above B here, even the B is actually a bit high, to be honest, but if I go even further, it will be a bit too light, like you can hear. And here it gets really bright and it doesn't sound like a sub anymore. And let's go back. So we are utilizing 1, 3rd, 5th and 4th, and it sounds. And it's actually not as simple. You can definitely hear in the original track it is like utilizing different things, like you can do maybe something like this, a triple grid, and then you can maybe change it to like this, and let's do it maybe 1/8, and you can even maybe exaggerate it like this, and then maybe if you want to keep it a bit maybe less aggressive, then you can utilize something like this. It gives kind of really nice polyrhythmic feel to the sound. So for now, to start with, I'm just going to use it like this. And depending on the part of the track, actually, we are going to either use a long one or a short one. And if we duplicate this now, and duplicate this one as well, the second part, let's say, of the track is basically going back to the E again. But this time, we are going to use double E, so... as simple as that. So I'm not going to play a lot with the vessel velocity because I really want that stable bass tune. And just because of that, I'm going to go here now. So let's solo this guy. The other thing that I'm thinking now is actually maybe distorting a bit, so that distortion itself oftentimes also compresses the sound, so the levels gets a bit more even. And then I'm going to compress it a bit afterwards. Just like that. It's like this really creamy sound. I really enjoy pigment spaces because I really think that they sound really nice. What we are going to do, of course, sidechain it to the kick. That's important because when the kick hits, we don't want any sub that area. And our kick is quite short as well. You see 0.15. So it's kind of like a very short kick. And we have to sidechain to the bass. Let's do that. And here we have something that's called look ahead, which means that you start ducking your bass signal before the kick hits. And that's important because it will also help your kick to pop, because we already volume down the sub bass before the kick hits. So it's really helping kick a lot in that sense. So if we play together now. Really nice groove going on. Maybe we can volume down the kick a little bit. And finally, I would like to kind of a bit group process together. The things that I like to do is, for example, utilizing glue compression and channel EQ, like boost a bit on the low end, so it gets a bit, let's say, bass heavy. Cut a bit here, depending on. Here is nice. I'm going to boost a bit high as well. Can probably open up this one a little bit depending on how much that thumb that we need. But in the track there is also another bass sound and there's also pad sound, so we don't really need that thumb of the bass because there, like I said, there are a lot of things going on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this and we are going to create this kind of a bit more weirder groveling bass sound out of it. So if we go back to our pigments again, I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to go for the analog engine and I'm going to utilize all the three oscillators. And this time I want a bit drift because this is like a high bass, so I'm not really interested of the sub sound but a bit higher part of the sound. So what happens now is I'm going to put it in the 7 semitone, so the 5th, perfect 5th, and open this. And I don't want this envelope anymore that heavy, so what we are going to do is basically increase this like this. And then we utilize another one here and then volume that up again. It's really growling, but what I want to do, I want to exaggerate that sound, and we're gonna change the mini. This one, if we start resonated, you will start to lose that low end. So if we play again, it gets really that resonated sound in the meantime that we don't need that so super lows. And afterwards, the important thing over here is playing with these fines to make it even more fatter and more analog. So we're gonna go a bit here and here and let it drift. It's a subtle effect, but you can definitely hear it. It's like this weird phasing of oscillators that you can clearly hear. And this time I'm going to actually utilize overdrive. Let's play all together to see if it actually works together. And here we're cleaning up the sub area a little bit. And because we don't have so many sub basses, we can make the sidechain a bit less aggressive. Just like that. I will keep the low end like this. Again, I don't need too much work here. We can come back later on in the final tuning when we are A/B comparing probably with the original track. But it's good to go. Again, the important thing over here is keeping the kick a bit shorter so that we can give a bit more space to bass so that it is more like a progressive house track. And now we have done that, let's go for the hats. And there are not so many things here, a couple of tricks, but we can take a look at them. And we can start with actually that very bright closed hi-hat sound probably. So I'm gonna delete these 16 hats, so we only have the off hat, and I'm gonna just search for ban hat. It's a very bright hat sound. Something like this will be useful for us. The main difference in this hat sound is actually we are going to utilize triplets rather than just having like the offbeat closed hi-hat sound. So if I take this off here, and I'm taking like making it shorter so that it's easier to explain, let's do it this way. So if you take a look at the classic approach, you see the off hats, off hats, off hats. So it will sound like this. It doesn't make sense because all the other things are triplets. So what we are going to do is basically click here and go on to triplet mode, and let's put it into 1/8. So what happens now, you see that we have 3 hits rather than 4 hits on each bar. So that basically means that we can do like this. So we move this guy over here and over there. And if I play one more time, it's almost like this weird stopping and going back again. What I'm going to do, probably maybe cut it here and then a bit shorter here. And I think there's a bit, let me see. Probably this guy over here is not that bad. This guy over here is a bit irritating. So what I'm going to do, this one. I'm gonna actually even make it like this. I want it a bit more brighter because the original track, it is a very bright hi-hat sound. So let's boost it like this and cut it here. So we are not like a boosting though. And I want to have another one. Let's do like, this is the one that gives that bright character, so I don't want to take it off super much, but I don't want to boost it neither. So just to balance. That is done. And what we can do is a slight vocoder to really make it ever organic. And I'm thinking maybe creating a room reverb to the return so that we can actually send a bit the reverb so that we can create this kind of room effect. So let's call this like a drum room. And because we are gonna send the hi-hat, so I don't want to cut all these highs, let's let them pass through and maybe cut super lows instead. And let it go like this. And then if I try to send a little bit to the drum room, make it shorter. a bit red delay so that we can hear the original hit a bit better. And a bit larger. I think this is good enough. Again, the volumes are a bit too much probably. And we can finally maybe slightly utilize the compressor too. Just a scoosh a little bit, just a tiny bit. Just a bit more pleasant really, nothing much. This is good for now, but that is not the only thing that it has, the track has, and track has this kind of really vocoder shaker. The moment that you hear it, if you have been in this channel for a while, you will hear that one is a vocoder. So it was one of those moments for me. I was like, yeah, that is a vocoder, and there's Ableton. So I actually don't know if he uses Ableton, so maybe he used another DAW and then just had the sample of the vocoder effect added. So we are gonna do that now. I know you are like, what are you talking about? So you'll understand a bit better. Let me do it. So what I'm going to do, just copy this guy below here. It will be the same MIDI more or less, but what I'm going to do, just pick a shaker sound. I'm interested a bit more like darker. These are all same. I think this should be fine if we solo this. It's a bit too dark, so let's transpose this guy over here a bit. So you have a bit brighter effect. And then you can see that this is a bit too in your face and a bit too, let's say, like a digital. So what I'm going to do first, introduce a chorus. This is an important part, and this will also make the sound a bit more, let's say, wider and more spread on the sides and so on. So what we are going to do, play around a little bit. So let's solo this. So let's play. I think something like this is fine. Again, the main characteristic of the sound actually comes from the vocoder. That's the more important part, I will say. So let's bring on a vocoder here. And I'm going to do it before the chorus because I want the chorus to utilize the vocoder effect as well. But I want to see the effect. So that's why I play with the vocoder the chorus first. So let's play around with the vocoder a bit and try to get a bit nice shaker sound. Yeah, something like that. And that was the main, like, let's say, main vocoder sound in the shakers. And when I heard that one in the original sound, I was like, yeah, that is that. And the one final thing is I'm not really happy with the stereo field. I'm going to abuse that, put a delay, and then we're going to turn these things off and this one off as well. And bring this down like that. So if I now do it 100% ping pong, you will see that it will be like that, almost weird phasing. But if you keep it small like this and do it like this and turn the feedback down, it just gives this kind of nice ambience. And if I play with the track now, it will start making sense. And let's send it to our drum room again. And one final thing, I'm thinking of cutting a bit here. And maybe do it like this. And that's good. And of course, this will be like going all the way here, what we can do. And finally, we can maybe group process them together with like glue compressor. Faster attack probably. something like this. Again, we can probably introduce a bit the slap echo depending on, I don't remember if the original track had it, so I will wait a bit for this one until the end of the track. So once this is done, then we have this kind of weird ping ping sound, and it's really important for this track. And let's start with this one so that we have that ping going on for us. So let's call this one plug hits, and let's just get the pigments. I will just utilize really a single oscillator for this one because it's a quite simple sound. So it's just playing the B all the time. So what I'm going to do is just put it here because it's the same tempo, and I'm gonna go here and copy everything and put them into B. However, it's not that often, it's like this. And then we're gonna put this. It's like giving this kind of really nice groove to the sound. However, this is a bit too, let's say, dark. Let's put it in B4 and let's go for the pigments again. Okay, let's go. And then of course it's kind of a really plug sound, so we have to make it a plug. So I'm going to utilize the envelopes like this. And then we are going to take this envelope tube and put it on the filter so that we can open up the filter very fast and like this. And we're going to give a nice release. And I'm going to go for the sound filter. Or we can get actually a matrix maybe and go for 12 feet. It kind of feels a bit like nicer. I feel like the decay is a bit too long. Let's shorten this up. And then we're gonna go for a delay, reverb here. Again, the amount of envelope that you're using has a really big effect on the sound itself. Finally, maybe put this one a bit more. Yeah, this should be a bit brighter and finer. So let's... The things that is missing is we have to make this a bit like a thicker, a bit kind of cooler. The reason being that this sound became really dominant later in the track, so we are going to saturate a bit. And I'm gonna go for actually soft sine or medium. And then we're gonna go for EQ. I'm thinking of boosting a bit here. Try to get the sound a bit thicker, even though we are utilizing the high. And afterwards, actually, there is like an automation in this one, so it's a bit like closed in the beginning. And during the track, it opens up. So, but we can deal with it later on if we play everything. Cool and nice. However, we are still missing one of the main elements here that is really important, is the chords that really creating this kind of nice ambience in the track, and then using those chords and creating really this chord plug hits as well. So let's put the chords down to the pads, I will say. I'm a bit too lazy to write down the chords back again, so I prepared them already here. And by the way, I think this track is 122, so let's put this 122 at the meantime. And chord progression is like this. It's really kind of same with the bass, but a bit more richer. Again, this is something that just taken from the origin track, and we need to create this kind of really nice groveling pad sounds from it to fill up the ambience that we have, because at the moment We have like high and low and a simple percussive hit, so we need to fill that space. So let's do that. Let's introduce the pigments. And the important thing on this sound is actually still keeping that vintage vibes to the track. So let me maybe go for, let's go analog here. And then if I play now, it will just sound like a sawtooth. Not really that we are looking for. What I'm going to do, slightly put those ones like this. And then I'm going to basically put in the 1 octave above and then volume this up. Let's close this. And this one as well. Let's change the matrix 24. Give a bit of resonance. And of course the envelope should be a bit slower so that we don't have this like bump sound, like smoother transitions. Give a bit of release. And I want a similar thing here in the second envelope, and I'm going to put it slightly, really ever slightly to the cutoff. I don't want it to be exaggerated, but... You can utilize actually the voice and make it a bit more like a spread. I felt like in the original track they keep it simple like this, so I'm going to keep it this way as well. And then we are going to probably utilize a bit LFO on the like filter. Really small one. And then for the here, the fine, basically tuning of the oscillators, we are going to play with it a bit as well. Let's do the sine oscillator, really small one. And then for the LFO here, we're going to change the freeing. So this will continue to run all the time, regardless of what we are doing with this. And then let's put the chorus on top of that, so the sound gets really wobbly. So we are almost there, but in the original track there was also a bit of distortion, I think, and a bit like a reverb as well. What I'm going to do, utilize a slight distortion. And then for the reverb part, I'm thinking of creating kind of a pad reverb, a bit like a bigger reverb that I can send different pads into it. So what I'm going to do, open this up like this and open this up. Maybe we can keep it a bit smaller and then 100% wet and make it like this. Decrease the decay time to maybe 3 seconds, something like that. So that it's long, but it's not really super long. Less pre-delay. We don't need that here. And then we can start sanding and see how it affects. This is how the delay sounds. Maybe bigger. Together. The trick over here is both the reverb and the pad itself should be sighting the kick so that we have this really nice groove glue going on in whole track. Let's click. It doesn't need to be super aggressive. Let's put this here on the pad as well. And during the track, this one actually opens up and closes up like this. You see definitely how it plays around with all the other elements. Again, it's not really something super complicated, but it just really ends up or like it works around with the other things that we have done. And that's not the only thing that we need. We need also another that like bum bum, super aggressive chord sounds, and we're gonna do that now as well. So the plug itself is exactly the same like the chord progression that we have, but it's like the tripled hits. So if I change it like a triple grid, you will probably see where they start and end. And in between here, actually, we will fill it up later on, but I think this is a good start to begin with. And if I play it, it will sound like this. Really cool little chord progression over here. Again, to make it really kind of vintage sound, like the band Böhmer feel, we're going to utilize the analog one more time. And this time we are going to utilize all the oscillators and use the same tricks, but we're going to utilize a much more aggressive envelope. So what I'm going to do basically is that activate all these guys, put the volumes up, right? And if I play now and play around like this, and I'm going to put this like 1 octave above and this one 1 octave below, so the sound gets really rich. And then we're going to play with this guy. Give it release. And of course envelope 2 goes for the cutoff. And then we're gonna go for the mini filter again. A bit keyboard, so that when you play higher notes, it opens a bit more. Again, we can drift it a bit more, so it gives a bit more analog vibe. And then the same thing over here, we can take the LFO and put it a bit here, and then put it onto the free mode. Not here, of course. And if you play with the track, the missing part over here is actually overdrive and distortion, because overdrive especially will give really this kind of high richness to the sound if I play. And then we're going to play a little bit with the probably, let's say, EQ. Here we go. The most important part over here is, to be honest, the envelope 2 and how you are opening up and closing down during the track. It's not only playing with the cutoff itself, it's not like this, it's also like a different combination. So if I take envelope 2 here, for example, and right click this one, I can actually take one of macros. Let's say I want to have the macro 1, and let's call it filter envelope. And if I make it 1, so what happens here is no envelope. I can decide how much the envelope will be applied to the cutoff, and this is really important for this track because this is played like a lot during the track. And let's change this one to the mini. And meanwhile, there's not only, of course, enough, and then you have like playing with the decay time so that it can kind of gets longer, and in the of course, and the cutoff. So let's call this one cutoff and put this guy to the cutoff here so that we can open up 2 at the same time. If I play, can see how much you can actually change the timbre and the control the everything. And the final thing, of course, here let's call it decay. Doesn't really matter that much. And let's put this one. Let's go here, the VCOs, so that I can click this guy, and then here decay, increase it, decay, increase it. So what happens if I increase the macro now? I almost decide how much, not almost, I decide just basically how much pluckiness the sound itself will have. And there's also an important parameter here. And finally, there was I think a small reverb on top of that. So we're going to take that, apply slight reverb. And one important thing over here is, of course, we are still not done yet. And it is the reverb, how much, not reverb, the delay that slaps back when you play the sound. And that one, I think, in the original track, it was a triple, so that what I'm trying to say, when I hit the pluck sound, and then we will hear the a echo of the sound basically at the same time. So what we're going to do, take this guy, put it into 100% wet, and then we're going to go for the triplet. And I think it was 1/8, something like this. And we're going to send this sound to there now. So this one is the third. Let's call it not slap, but maybe just delay. And if we start sending here. And see how much we can control. The one thing that you can definitely do is here on the echo, I think it was this one. If we put a compressor, we can actually sidechain to the original sound. So when the original sound hits, we can duck the delay so that we don't hear both delay and the original sound at the same time. So what we're going to do, this is the 8 sidechain, take it from the 8 pigments, and we should make it really short release, fast attack. That's good to go. And then we have this simple claps and a bit of white noise on top of that. And I think we had one more pads. But now I think it's time. We have most of the elements here. I can go back now, take a look at the original track and put things a bit in order and put a bit automation and come back and we can discuss that one afterwards. All right, so most of the things are ready. The things that we were missing, basically this white noise. Let me start with this one because it's kind of important. Sounds like this. I'm just using it like an ambience creator, and if I play with the track here, you will hear a bit more what it does. Giving really nice ambience. The only thing is here basically pigments. I took the analog and then turn off everything and put the noise and make it a bit red noise so that I can play around with the low end of course as well, and the sound filter, and just automating it. The other thing that was important that we missed is kind of this horn sound. I think it is this guy. Very fast attack. Again, the main theme really continues all the time. This time we are having again the analog, but using only one single oscillator and putting a lot of voices here. However, the important thing, this is a bit tricky sound simply because when the envelope hits, you almost hear like it gets out of tune and then comes back very fast. So what I did to kind of replicate that is I took the envelope 2 here, this guy, and put it onto detune. So when I hit it, it detunes it really a lot, and however, the amount of voices drops down, so the sounds get detuned from the sides to the middle. So I know it's a bit weird concept, but and then goes back again, opens up, and less detuned one more time. And I even add a bit the noise while I'm doing that, so it gets really weird. And then I'm using the same envelope also open up the cutoff. And then here really there's no effects at all. I am just adding some to the pad reverb that we made. And then cutting a bit super highs. And other plugins were like these chords, the same, I think it was, let me see here, but just using the same chord over and over again. And plays around with that other plug sound if I play together. Really cool little effect here. And the clap, of course, as usual, we didn't do any clap. And this is a simple clap, really. It's a bit wider. This one is just, I resampled it by using a snare and clap and two claps, I think, end up together. So this is a longer clap. You can hear the snare in the beginning and then two clap on top of each other, like sound. And yeah, that was more or less it. And there was a lot of automations, like I mentioned. Like if I show you the plugs, you see that I'm playing those different macros that we created, like the filter envelope, the cutoff, and the envelope itself. And I think I'm even playing one more thing somewhere here, like EQ8 opening up in the beginning, and volume. I think I was compensating something here, more or less. So a lot of automation going on. I would assume that he probably played his Moog and then played with his while doing this. I actually don't know, because in Sub 37 you can also use their VST version of the hardware so that you can automate almost anything in meantime. Maybe he did that way. And yeah, I think that was it. We have covered everything. So let's start the end and I can show you around a little bit. Yeah, one more thing, the shimmer. This is a really important one, and a couple of people were asking about this in the previous video, that those transitions that I really don't use much effect, and I don't think he did neither. And what I did here, basically create a super long reverb, and I keep sending the things in the reverb all the time. So if I go to plug here, and you see this one is the shimmer, like I'm keep sending stuff all the time. So when I want to exaggerate something, or when I want to articulate something, I just use it. I just send it a bit to shimmer reverb and create this nice sound. So example will be if I play here. It's really nice, like a vintage vibe into it. It's really, really cool. So let's do start and sorry for that. And I think not only plugs I'm using, I think not only plugs I'm using those sand stuff, even the chords, I think, if I remember correctly here, yeah, I'm sending there and here. So anytime I want a bit more smoother transition with a lot of articulation, I did that. Okay, now we try to start that, and I try to show you around a little bit. So let's go. And yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That helps a lot. And other than that, let me know what you want to in our how-to videos on the comments below, and I try to help as much as I can, as usual. Other than that, I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.